Today we're going to talk about, I'm Beth Elbert with Fidelity National Home Warranty, Collin Phaup with Goosehead Insurance. So how this class came about was about a year and a half ago, maybe, about a year and a half ago. Seems like it was longer than that, but maybe a year and a half ago. We were at lunch with some realtors and they were asking us questions about, you know, what does this cover? Do I tell my clients to call who? And Collin had the great idea, you know, you should write that class. And I went, that's a great idea. So I did. I wrote it, turned it into TREC.
In like 2 weeks, by the way.
Oh yeah. Well, it was pretty easy. It was pretty easy because I only do half the class, you know. So it was, but it was easy. So it was great. So I turned it in TREC. It came back and they said yes, they approved it. So it's a 1 hour CE. So every once in a while we go on tour and teach this class. Okay.
That's true. We've been all over now.
Yeah, we have. We went to Lindale. Yeah. That's about as far as we got. Yeah. So, and what we do is we go over, you know, I go over home warranties, then he takes over and goes over insurance, and then we kind of talk about situations that I just got a call, which is good, I'm going to add it, because we always get calls. I mean, it's just, you know, especially this time of year with the weather. So got a call, we weren't even sure who calls, what happens where, what we cover and what he covers, so we figured it out. So it's good information because I know that when something does break, the first person they call is who? Is you.
Yeah.
Is the realtors. And you're going to need to be able to, if you can, kind of guide them in a direction. Do you call your home warranty or do you call your homeowner's insurance? Because it is a process and you don't want to start either one and not be covered.
Right.
Okay?
Amen.
All right, so let's get started. Okay, so what this covers is home warranty. What is homeowner's insurance? What's the difference between them? Why do you need both? So important to need both. Trivia questions, and let's get started. All right, so first of all, and I didn't know this obviously until I got involved about a year and a half ago in home warranties, is who created it? And believe it or not, it was two realtors from California 35 years ago. They realized a need for home warranties. And why did they realize this need? Because they were getting calls from their clients of things that maybe a month in, 6 months in, that wasn't, you know, that broke or whatever, and they needed something help. And a lot of times too, who are they going to ask to help them? Well, you sold me this house. Aren't you going to help me with the cost of this? And so they decided, you know what, we need to create something. So they created the first home warranty. And then 5 million other companies decided they needed one too. So, and Fidelity's been around the longest. We've been around 30 years. We're under that Fidelity branch as well. All right? Did you know it was two realtors that created it? Kind of makes sense though, doesn't it? Because that's who really uses them. Okay. So buyers agents have the difficult task of telling their clients no in this market. No, you shouldn't have a home inspection. No, you shouldn't have a home warranty. And that was when what? When the sellers were demanding what they wanted. What I'll tell you is now the market is changing, which is really good. But you still have sellers that think they're in that market still, don't you? You still have sellers that, no, wait a minute. I don't have to pay for, you know, I don't have to get that home inspection. I don't have to pay for that home warranty because I can, the market is still the same, but it's not. It's changing. Another way too, which is really important, is for you guys to know about protecting yourselves with home warranties. Did you know that when you go to renew your E&O insurance, or your broker does, that there's questions on that they look at to see? Number one, they look at how many home warranties did your realtors order? Number two, did they do walkthroughs? Did they get that thing signed? And number three, how many home inspections? Because there's a reason why home warranties are part of the contract. It's because they protect you and protect your sellers and protect your buyers as well, all right? So the E&O insurance, and I taught a class yesterday, and she was asking me, she said, you know, obviously the last 2 years we haven't used home warranties, haven't ordered them, couldn't get sellers to pay for them. And realtors obviously, you know, it's hard for them to purchase one. So she said, so guess what? Our E&O insurance went way up because it's a bigger risk. If you don't do these things, you're looked at as a bigger risk. And what is E&O insurance? It's your risk insurance, okay? So keep that in mind. Home warranties work in order to protect the buyer, protect the seller, and to protect the realtor as well, okay? All right, home warranty service agreements also protect the seller from post-closing disputes with the new homeowners. If something does break down or require repair, the buyers can use the coverage provided by the home warranty service agreement in place and in good working condition. So let me explain this, because it's always, and I've learned it too. The day of closing, everything has to be in good working condition. Now, it doesn't matter, you may have an HVAC system that is 30 years old. It doesn't matter the age, it just has to be in good working condition the day you close. So if you get a home inspection and it says, you need to get an AC guy out here, or that's not working, needs to be repaired, it's not going to be covered because that's pre-existing issues. So home warranties don't cover pre-existing issues. It's on the seller, all right? So I'll give you an example of pre-existing, because I got a call the other day from a realtor. They were doing a walkthrough. Now you guys do walkthroughs all the time, and you just kind of walk through and make sure that what? The seller left what they said they were going to leave. That's the main thing you look at, and make sure there's not any damage or whatever. And really don't check out things. But remember, the home inspection was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now you're about to close. So this realtor walked in and the dishwasher was hanging halfway open, so she kind of leaned up against it to shut it, and guess what it started doing? Smoking. It came on and started smoking. And the buyer goes, oh my gosh. And so what does that realtor do? She picks up the phone, calls the other realtor. Did you know? And now the seller's already signed, okay? And they've already moved out of the house and signed. But this dishwasher is now smoking. And so she called the other realtor, and did you know the dishwasher smoking? No. Because what? The seller, forget to mention that to their realtor. So she said, nope. She goes, well, my buyer's not going to sign because you need to get either the amendment to the contract that says seller is going to agree to get this done because home warranty is not going to pay for it because it's pre-existing, and she knew that, okay? Another example. This was about a month ago, buyer moves in, closes on a Friday, late afternoon. Temperatures are 20 degrees outside. They move in and no hot water and no heat. No hot water, no heat. So they called me and I said, sounds like it's gas. Now if your hot water heater's not working and your heater's not working, then it's probably gas. Something's wrong with the gas. And I said, well, it sounds like it's gas. Not, did they pay the gas bill? Did they switch it over? Did they turn it off? She goes, that's a good question. So she called back. Husband went out there. Guess what? There was no gas meter. The city had come and taken the gas meter because the seller moved out like weeks ago, and the neighbor smelled gas on their land. So what does the city do? They come and take it. If you have a situation and your clients have they call you and say, we smell gas or something, tell them, number one, to shut it off. Yeah. Call a plumber, don't call the city. Because the city's going to come out and take it. And then they're going to say, you need to get it fixed, and then you need to call us when it does. And then when it does, we come out and inspect it, and then we put it back. It takes 3 or 4 weeks for that to happen. So tell them, don't call the city. Shut it off, and then call us if you have a home warranty, or call a plumber. Okay, so that's a perfect example of when you do walkthroughs, how important it is to check everything. You wouldn't have thought to go and check the gas meter, would you? No. And you thought maybe somebody would have told somebody that it was gone, but the city did leave a little note, but nobody looked at the little note that was on the front door. So, or the seller might have taken it off when they left. Anyway, so important to do that, all right? But again, everything has to be in good working condition the day you close. Our home warranty starts the day you close and fund. Other competitors start when they get the check from title. We don't do that. We start the day they close. Now let me tell you, if something happens and it is Friday night and they move in Saturday and they go, oh my gosh, my water heater's out or something like that, or I need a rekey or something, if they call in to do that, the service department's going to tell them we don't have money yet. Well, that's not a problem, but they aren't going to need to call me because I can activate that account. I got to get a hold of title to make sure, number one, they collected from the money. Number two, they mail the money, or when they're going to, I may get a check number. And I call that in, activate their account, and get it taken care of. So it's not like it can't be done. It can be, but they got to go through me. So if you know it's within the first week, tell them to call me, because I'm going to need to help them and get that done, okay? Okay, what is a home warranty? Home warranty covers the repair and replacement of home's major systems appliances due to normal wear and tear. Things your clients depend on every day. How does a home warranty work? Fidelity National Home Warranty covers start day of closing. We talked about that. Coverage continues for 1 or 2 full years depending on which plan you have. We also have a 13-month plan. And sometimes when you send me maybe the contract or order or whatever, and you say, hey, we've got $600, and if I can't use all of it, what I do is I may go to the 13-month plan and then add maybe refrigerator coverage or something. If you have septic, I'll go to something else and make sure you have septic coverage, okay? But we do have a 13-month plan as well. It's a little more, it's $30 more, but it covers them for another month. So understanding coverage, Covered Fidelity Home Warranty has the most comprehensive coverage in the industry. Not covered, be sure that you and your clients are what no is not covered. So we don't have a cap on HVAC systems. That's your AC and your furnace, which means that our competitors do. And so when you're looking at, your buyers are looking at coverages, because I know you have to give them 3 options, all right? And that's TREC requirement. Here's 3 options. But tell them, don't look at the prices, look at the coverages. You don't want them to move in and they went to a cheaper one to get more coverage and then realize their HVAC system needs to be replaced and they're going to have to pay $3,000 out of pocket because they only go up to $2,000. Ours is, if we can't repair it, we're going to replace it, and that's all home warranties. If they can't be repaired, they be replaced. I know that some say, well, it's old, it's not really, heating, I don't want to repair it, I want it replaced. We're going to repair it until it's replaced, all right? And if you think of it, that's going to be your buyers as well. The buyer, what's the chance of your buyer really going to spend the money to have it replaced if it can be repaired? It's the same concept as we do. No cap on HVACs, I just talked about that. Also, on our appliances, and this is like, even with our standard, you get dishwasher, you get your stove and your oven, all right? And disposal. So with ours, we have a $5,000 cap on appliances. Now, if you added kitchen, refrigerator, washer, and dryer, that's $5,000 each, okay? $5,000 on your dishwasher, $5,000 on your oven, $5,000 on your cooktop. So keep that in mind because those coverages are a lot more than our competitors, all right? So make sure they look at that. All right, go to the next one. Let's see. Enhanced. So that enhanced, they added some. And this is really good because, if it is an older home, some things you really need to think about if they want to. Now, they may just have $600 from the seller, but they may want to contribute more to get a better policy, especially if they're moving into an older home. So the enhanced plan also, this covers slab leaks, stoppages due to roots, and I'm going to tell you, I have a house in the Azalea district that has stoppages due to roots, and it is no fun, and it's expensive. Very expensive.
Probably one of the most common reasons that we see sewer and drain backup.
Absolutely. So it's covered now in this one. So think about that, talk to them about that.
And this is picking up some things that the home insurance can sometimes pick up as well.
Yep, absolutely. And code violations and modifications. If it was just, let's say somebody just did remodeling and they didn't bring it up to code, or it needs to be brought up to code. These older houses may not have any problem for 10 years, it needs to be brought up to code. I know every time I call somebody out to my house, they go, guess what? It needs to be brought up to code because it was built in 1935.
And we see that with like hot water heaters and things like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And who was and I know I'm getting off track, but who was the person that decided to put a hot water heater in the middle of the house?
Yeah. Or in the attic.
Or in the attic. Okay, let's put 40 gallons in the middle of the house and then hopefully it will never, oh my gosh.
It's going to leak.
Yes, it's going to leak.
Yeah.
Whoever discovered that?
On, like, let's say what you talked about like we only have like $600. Is that something that if the buyer wants to add more, we do that then you're in the contract or after?
Nope, we do it now. Now they have 30 days if they want to, but what happens is they forget. And they're like a month into it, 2 months into it, go, oh, I got to add that, and they can't, okay? So talk to them, and I would rather do it at closing. It can be collected from title, you know, they put it on the buyer side, collect it, title sends it in, and they're covered. Yeah, just talk, because if you know they're going to do that. And if they have a pool and spa and things like that, they're like, you know, they may only get $600, but they want that coverage, talk to them and say, you know, something that we can do now, and I encourage you to do it now and not wait. Because it's that 30 days and it goes by quick.
So they have the first 30 days to be able to.
From the date of close, first 30 days, so they can add anything to it. And of course, they just call it in and add it and pay, you know, give them a credit card and pay for it. But it's better to do at closing. I encourage it because I get calls all the time. They said, hey, you know, I decided I want to add coverage. When'd you close? Oh, November 22nd. Well, you've got 30 days. Well, can you do something?
Or anything else like that you have to send somebody else back out or something? Like, let's say, you know, they don't get that additional coverage, but then something goes wrong within the first 14 days, and then they decide to add coverage onto it on the 16th day. Is there something you, like on yours, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Home inspection is done.
Okay, so we rarely ask for the home inspection. I don't want to see it. I rarely ask for it unless you call and say, it's a week into it and the furnace isn't working, and I'm going to, because it's a week, and usually if it's within 30 days, it's probably pre-existing, or especially a week, because it's a red flag. Okay, and then I'm going to ask, did you get a home inspection? You go, yeah. I'm going to say, what does it say? You said, no, it's perfect. Okay, what I encourage everyone to do is to spend the additional $100 if you represent the buyer, $125. Call the day before you close, or within the week you close. Call an HVAC system, have them come out, because home inspectors are going to come out and they're going to check it, but they're not going to take it off. They're not going to look to see if it's leaking. They're not going to look at the coils. They're not going to clean it. If you get that for me, because I've had probably 3 or 4 that I've overturned, because that realtor had their HVAC system come out, cost $100, $125. He goes, yeah, it's dirty, I need to clean it. He cleaned it, it was Freon at that time, now it's different radiant. But anyway, they do that. And then something happened after that, a week or 2 later, and we denied it because of pre-existing. And she called me and I said, did you get it? You know, she said, I got it checked the day before you closed. I can send it to him. She sent it in. Everything was in good working condition. And it was from a licensed AC guy. And I sent it in and we overturned it. Okay, so that's why it's real important, because those inspectors, they do a good job, but they're not going to inspect everything. So a lot of times it's not going to be done. So get those done, especially if it's an old system. If it's brand new, there's no use in doing that. But if it's old, tell your buyer, let's do that, because you don't want that phone call. It's worth the $100.
And not all home warranties are created equal either, because when I posted about this class, I had a gentleman comment in it, and he said, you know, who do you recommend?
Yeah.
But then he added the addendum of, I had an issue 3 months after I closed on my house, you know, where the air conditioning system went out, and the home warranty company asked me for 3 years of service records.
Oh my God.
This is 3 months after closing.
Their competitor.
And I said, well, did you get an inspection?
Yeah.
Like a new purchase inspection? And he said, not an official one.
Yeah.
It does make those things important.
Absolutely.
And going directly to a professional that deals with the system that you're most
and
concerned
they know.
about is,
you
know, a really good idea.
Yeah. And Aaron.
If we get an inspection and we get the coverage and, you know, everything's working, whatever, but like the washer and dryer is not staying and stuff like that, obviously that was inspected. Can we add the coverage if they're bringing their stuff in?
Yes, that's a good question, because I get that all the time, because, you know, you can add the enhance, which covers your kitchen, refrigerator, washer, and dryer. And a lot of people think it's if the seller leaves those items. No, it's the buyers, okay? And it's the seller if he's leaving it, but it's the day of closing and funding, what's in that house is what's covered, okay, or when they move in. You know, so if they're bringing their washer, dryer, and refrigerator, then it's going to be covered, or the seller leaves it, it's going to be covered, okay? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
If they move into the new home
Yep. So remember, now if it's, within the first 30 days, it might be flagged as, and that's any home warranty. They're going to look for the first 30 days, and especially the first couple of weeks, if they start calling in, oh, my refrigerator's not working.
Yeah.
It probably was a pre-existing issue, I mean, that's probably was. So make sure now, if you have brand new, if they're going to go and buy brand new appliances, you're going to be under manufacturer's warranty, so you don't want to do that, okay? Because it's the same coverage we're going to cover. So, but that's a good question, because they think that, well, I'm not going to get it because the seller's not leaving it. Doesn't have to be the sellers. It can be whatever they bring in, all right? But HVACs is probably the biggest one that is, because that's the most, or the water heaters, okay? Now, let's talk about seller's coverage. Seller's coverage, and I don't know why more people don't order seller's coverage, because it's really important. Couple of things. So seller's coverage, starts, whenever you order it, or the day of listing or whatever. So when you're taking a listing, talk to your sellers about seller's coverage. And if it's an older home, they may want seller's coverage. If you know the seller may not have the money to replace a dishwasher if it breaks, or replace an HVAC system, or replace a cooktop, or things like that, then you might want to talk to him about that. A couple of things. For seller's coverage, coverage is limited. Why is it limited? Because it's a bigger risk, all right? The risk is, number one, we never get paid for it. Because seller's coverage is only $75. They have to agree to buy the buyer a new home warranty, all right? But all of it's taken care of and paid for at closing, okay? So let's say you do get seller's coverage. We go out and we replace the HVAC system. Now, it's a cap on sellers. It's $1,500. But we replace that, and then 6 months later, you don't get a contract. He pulls it off the market. Does he have to pay us? No. So that's why it's such a big risk for us, and that's why we don't cover everything. That's why it's a cap on $1,500 on HVAC systems for replacements, because obviously it's a bigger risk. Now with a buyer, there's no cap. But talk to your sellers about that. Just the other day, I have several realtors that order them every listing, and the cooktop went out, and we replaced it 2 days before closing. So it is a benefit. They are going to need to buy, from us a home warranty. Okay, what happens if the buyer says, because it's their choice, and they say, no, I want somebody else, it's not us. And we've done work. Let's say we've gone out there and fixed the HVAC system or the water heater or something. That work is warranted through us during the listing period. So it would not be pre-existing when they moved in. So let's say we went out and our plumber said they fixed the water heater. 2 days later, the buyer calls and says, no, water heater's still leaking, it's not working. It would not be pre-existing because we warranted that work already. We have sent somebody out. If it's another company, it's going to be, they didn't warrant the work. Does that make sense? So you encourage them and tell them, look, if there's a claim placed, they're going to warrant the work and it's not be considered pre-existing. If you go with somebody else, they're going to. Does that make sense? Okay. At closing. Yep. So it's going to be, so let's say he agreed to $600 for a new home warranty, then it'd be $675. Okay. So for the seller to pay. Also, too, right now, since home warranties are written back in contracts, thank God, also buyers are looking to save money. So they're put it in MLS. Seller has seller's coverage and is offering a buyer a home warranty. I guarantee you they're looking for that right now. They're looking for every amount of money they can save. All right?
If we have a buyer that gets a home warranty and it's paid at closing and everything, and they decide they're moving, can that transfer over to the buyer?
Okay, so the new construction home warranty transfers. All right, the new construction home warranty it's a new one for us. It starts the second year and it's good for 4 years, or so basically from year 2 to year 5. It is transferable. Stays on that house until it goes away for 5 years. It's a lot of builders are picking up. If you do have one, what we do is we prorate it, all right? So let's say that they got one and they've lived in the house 6 months. and they want to, they said, yes, I'm going to pay $500 for that, we will give them the credit for the time that's left on it, so it's less money they have to pay. Does that make sense? It's not transferred, but it's less money they have to pay. So, which benefits the buyer, because you really don't want it transferred, because you aren't going to get 6 months. They're going to get the money, but still purchase, and then your new buyer gets a year. Okay? Does that make sense?
But not on a single regular plan.
Do what?
So is the single plan, single month plan, is it transferable?
No, no.
The new construction.
Just the new construction. And it's because it's good for 5 years, or for 4 years. It starts the second year through the 5th year. And it's a really good warranty. Builders are picking it up. So, because in the state of Texas, you don't have to be licensed to build a house. Did you know if you're not licensed to build if you don't have a license and your builder's license and you build this house, you can't buy a 1-2-10. So instead of that, and a conjunction with 2, because what the 1-2-10 covers, the home warranty, doesn't cover, and vice versa. They cover, structural and things like that, and they kick in the second year because craftsmanship's the first year, and everything else is under manufacturer's warranty. But all that goes away after the first year. That's when ours kicks in and covers your HVAC systems, your plumbings, and things like that. The 1-2-10's not going to cover that. It's going to cover structural and things like that. But remember, if you're making an offer, because this happened, if you made an offer and it's a builder, number one, ask if you put in there your buyer wants a 1-2-10, 2 days before closing, he tried to purchase one. Now, they've taken 9 months to build this house, and now they've got 2 days before closing, and he tries to purchase a 1-2-10, and he can't because he didn't have a license. So then they called me, and I said, yes, but it's not the 1-2-10. You're not getting that coverage. You're going to get this. Well, the buyer said, it's taken me 9 months to build this house. Where am I going to go? So she agreed to taking ours instead of the 1-2-10. So make sure, because I know she was disappointed because she wasn't going to get that, but she wasn't going to cancel the closing and not move in her house because she was pretty much stuck. So make sure that if your buyer wants a 1-2-10, that it can be purchased. All right, because you'd be surprised the builders that don't have a license. All right, did everybody know that?
Question.
You bet.
What if you have a seller that has Fidelity just as a regular home warranty?
Yes.
And they've only had it for, say, 3 or 4 months.
Prorated.
Left on it, can it go to the buyer?
It's credited. Whatever's left is credited, so it'd be less money. So the only one that's transferable is going to be the new construction. Everything else that we prorate it, we give them a credit, and then whatever, like say for instance, yes, I'll offer 500.
Take to where they're going. To where
Nope. It's credited to the amount. So let's say I'm going to pay $500 or agree to pay $500, all right? And then what's left on it is $400 and something. So we'll subtract that. He's only charged $100 for that year warranty, all right? But the reason why we do that is because we want to make sure that the buyer, the new homeowner, has a year. Not 4 months, not 6 months, not 7 months. They have a year. They have 12 months or 13 months, depending on the plan, okay? And sometimes if there is a proration and there is $500, he agreed to pay $500, I'll call you and say, he's getting $400 back. Do I have $500 to pay? Do I now have 6? Or does he want the credit? So make sure and ask that, because if he says, no, I want $500 fine, then great, then we have $700 we can spend for that buyer. So have that conversation with them, okay? All right. Call me. That's right. Just call me. Okay, a home warranty plan can fill some of the exclusion gaps in a homeowner's insurance policy, providing an additional layer of coverage to reduce the financial risk to the homeowner, because that's what it is, it's to save money. Now we're going to talk about homeowners insurance. All right, so he doesn't follow this, you just do what you want to do.
I really don't. Sorry about that.
No.
So I think the simplest explanation of the difference between home warranty and homeowners insurance is home warranty is going to cover the system that fails. We're going to cover what happens when the system fails. So the hot water heater example is a perfect one. So hot water heater fails, floods the home. We don't cover the hot water heater replacement. That's where home warranty comes in. But we cover the resulting water damage. So that's going to be considered sudden accidental discharge. So it is important for, the real estate professionals to make sure that the client understands what their homeowner's policy covers. Most policies are going to cover sudden and accidental water discharge. So in that example, the resulting water damage would be covered. But there are some cheaper homeowners insurance policies that are going to exclude sudden and accidental discharge of water. So even in those cases, it might not be covered. So it is very imperative, especially if you're making the recommendation on homeowners insurance, that you're referring them to an insurance professional that is going to educate them on what is covered, but most importantly, what's not. So when we talk about those exclusions, those things where home warranty might be able to pick up where we don't cover, it is important to understand that the common exclusions in a homeowner's policy are going to be things like wear and tear, defect, deterioration, and workmanship. So we had that example where
Yes. Just a few
they
minutes
reach
ago.
out and said, hey, the sink dropped from where it met
Yes.
the granite.
Yes.
So does home warranty pick that up? Does homeowners insurance pick that up? I can say pretty confidently that homeowners insurance is not going to pick that up unless there was a peril that caused that sink to separate from the counter. So say there was water damage underneath there, and they have seepage and leakage of water or water discharge, and that caused the sink to separate from the countertop, then yes, water would be the proximate cause of loss. But otherwise, if it just failed, poor workmanship, quality, deterioration, those kind of things, that's exclusions under a homeowner's policy. So that's not where we pick up. So it is important to kind of understand
Yes.
the different policy forms and endorsements that are in a homeowner's policy. So that's where you do see the variation. There's basic perils: fire, lightning, wind, theft, hail, hurricane, vandalism, malicious mischief, aircraft, vehicles, riot and civil commotion. Those are common perils that are covered in a homeowner's policy. And so it's going to cover both the dwelling and their personal property. So the hot water heater leaks, it causes damage to the flooring, causes damage to the sheetrock, maybe their personal property is affected by that. Homeowners policies are going to pick that up. You want to make sure that they have a replacement cost policy, because that's what's going to give them new for old in the event that they have a loss, rather than a depreciated amount for age and condition of a certain item at the time of the loss. So they need to read and understand their policy, or have an agent that's advising them on those things appropriately. Damage caused by a leak, it should be covered by a homeowner's policy. But that repair or replacement, so like the toilet situation, water line connecting the toilet, that fails and floods the home, making sure that that water damage is covered, but we're not going to cover to replace the pipe itself, right? Or we're not going to cover to replace the toilet itself. That's going to be where home
We would
warranty
come in.
kicks in, right?
Yeah.
We see this, and she and her Fidelity in their expanded package covers access to a leak in the slab of the home. But that's not a common thing in a homeowner's policy. So it's really cool that they picked that up, because most basic and even some expanded homeowners policies are not going to cover access to plumbing within the foundation of the home. So it's really neat that her, enhanced policy is going to pick that up.
Yeah.
There are endorsements on homeowners policy that can pick some of those things up. So slab and foundation access coverage, that's an access coverage. It's not an overall foundation coverage. So if you get normal shifting or settling or cracking in the foundation, we're not picking up coverage on the foundation as a whole. But what we are going to say is if that pipe fails and floods the home and there's a cost to access it, it covers the cost to access the leak, repair the foundation necessary in order to access it. We don't cover the pipe, but we're going to cover the access to it, which is the expensive part of it, right? The pipe
Yeah.
itself, that system itself, is not the most expensive part of that.
Right.
The other thing that we see that we have clients having experience with, especially when we talk about root stoppages. So again, that enhanced package with her is going to pick up those things, but a client would need to have sewer and drain backup coverage on their homeowner's policy in order for that to be covered under the homeowner's policy. So a reverse flow from a sewer drain system that backs up into the home and causes water damage. Again, we're not covering the system. We're not covering the toilet or whatever that issue might be. If the kid flushes the toilet or
Yeah.
flushes the toy down the toilet, now that's got to be replaced. Those things fail. We're not covering the system, but we can cover the resulting water damage from that failure. So it's important to make sure that that is an endorsement that's on the policy. One thing that we do see that is not as common, but it can be more expensive, is when that water leak has been concealed for a long period of time. So a good example of this is like, a shower pan. It degrades over time and you start to see that leak, maybe have some wet carpet or wet sheetrock. And then you go in, you have your plumbing professional tear that out, and you've got wood rot, wet rot, dry rot, the pan's got to be replaced, those kind of things. because that water's been concealed and has been leaking over a period of what they call more than 14 days. So that's where it goes from sudden and accidental to slow and intermittent seepage and leakage of water, is if they can prove that it's been leaking for more than 14 days, most homeowners policies are not going to cover that unless they have the endorsement for seepage and leakage. So there's 4 really main water perils from internal water damage. That's sudden and accidental discharge, sewer and drain backup coverage, slab and foundation access coverage, and then slow and intermittent seepage and leakage of water. If you can get all 4, then we're basically covering any of those internal water damages. There's a common exclusion in all homeowners policy, and that's rising water from outside the home. That's going to be considered flood. You would need to have a flood policy or a flood endorsement on a homeowner's policy, which is very, very hard to come by. But flood insurance in a preferred zone is very inexpensive. You know, it's around $450 for the year to cover rising water from outside the home. 17% of all flood claims occur in a preferred flood zone. So it can happen even if they're not required to purchase the flood insurance.
Yeah.
Really, you know, making sure that they have a replacement cost policy, which is going to be required by their lender. But we have seen, as carriers have kind of tightened their belt during this time period where we're in a hard market, carriers' costs have risen. So the cost to repair and replace things in your home have gone up as the cost of labor and materials have gone up. It's the same thing with the technology in vehicles. It's made those replacements more expensive. So carriers are having to control their costs as their profitability has gone down. And one of the ways they do that is they shift more of the burden to the insured, either through higher deductibles, so that's the insured's out-of-pocket expense, or they're going to limit what they cover. So there's limitations in that home warranty on certain things. There's limitations in the homeowner's policy as well in some cases. So what we've seen is that carriers are limiting what they pay to replace the roof. They're going to do a roof schedule where they don't pay full replacement cost anymore. So as the roof ages, they pay less and less. Or again, through higher deductibles, they're going to shift more of the burden to the insured. So making sure that the insured understands what their out-of-pocket expense is also paramount.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have it's an addition add-on. It's $30 and it's homeowners insurance coverage. What that is let's say, for instance, hot water heater, something happened to the hot water heater, it did flood the house, all right? We're going to go out and fix that hot water heater or replace it. And if you have that additional $30, then we're going to pay $1,000 towards your deductible.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, to play, because you're going to also place a claim to fix the flooring and thing damage or whatever. So if you have that, it's not used a lot because it can't be, let's say, for instance, you do file a claim on your roof or something and you have this, it's got to be something that we go out and fix some of it and then you place a claim for the rest.
Right.
Does that make sense? Then it's $1,000 what we pay.
And there's claims that are going to impact a client's future rates and eligibility, and then there's claims that are not. So anything that's considered weather, act of God, force majeure, those kind of things, whatever you want to call it, those are not chargeable claims. So a hail claim doesn't hurt for a seller to file a hail claim to make sure that the roof could be covered by the homeowner's insurance. The losses do follow the insured, but a weather claim is not chargeable. It's not going to impact that seller's rates and future eligibility for insurance coverage. So it doesn't hurt. We hear a lot of times that the seller really doesn't want to file that wind or hail claim, even though the roofer said that, you know, it may need insurance attention, because they don't want that loss on their loss history. Weather claims are not considered in the same way as a fire claim or a water claim would be. Those types of claims, including theft, are going to be considered chargeable types of claims, and those do impact future rates and eligibility for the insured. Especially when we talk about deductible, it's kind of one of those things where you want to make sure that it's worth filing the claim. $0 claims, especially as it relates to water or some of these other things that are chargeable, are not necessarily great to have on your record. So, you know, because we work for the insured and not the insurance company as an independent agent, we want the clients to call us whenever they have a potential claim or a coverage question so we can advise them appropriately. Sometimes it's better, rather than starting with the claim, to start with the professional who can repair the claim or is ultimately going to handle that process for you, because they can advise you on, okay, based on what the damage is, your total out-of-pocket expense is going to be $2,500. If your deductible is $2,000 on the policy, you may want to consider whether or not that's going to impact what your future rates are to know whether or not you want to make that claim or if you want to pay that out of pocket. Because a lot of times the insurance company, because the surcharge period on homeowners insurance for a chargeable claim is 5 years. In a lot of cases, if you only net recover $500 on a claim, the insurance company is going to get more back out of you through higher premiums and surcharges over the next 5 years than what they even paid you for the claim.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that it's worth filing those claims. Weather claims, no brainer, have somebody come out and take a look at it. Water claims, those kind of things, we want to make sure that it's worth filing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. Good point. Okay, so what's the difference between a home warranty and homeowner's insurance? HVAC system wear out even with proper maintenance. A home warranty covers expensive repairs and replacement of these items. Damage caused by storms, hail, and should be covered by homeowner's insurance. You know, and I'll tell you, we were talking about the sink situation. So the realtor sent me that question, and it's a picture of the sink, and the actual sink fell through, and as you know, there's a space about this much between that. You know, I don't know if it's covered either under us. I don't know, because it depends on what caused that, you know. So I told the realtor to go ahead and place a claim, you know, to call it in, because if she calls it in and she talks to them, they're probably going to tell her yes or no, or let's send a plumber out, because I think really a plumber needs to go out there, because you know, the guys that work for us and the plumbers, HVAC system, they're really good about detecting, is it us or what happened, especially if it's pre-existing. So, so if it's a case that she pays $85 and it's not, I'll reimburse that $85. Yeah. And I told her, I said, of course she has to get that permission from me, but I told her, I'll reimburse that $85 if they come back and they say, plumber comes back and says, no, it's craftsmanship, it wasn't sealed, it wasn't built right, then that's another situation. I'm not going to pay for it, and he's not either. So you know, again, have them call me or call the service department, but for me to give the refund of the $85, it has to go through me first, but I'm happy to do that. A home warranty covers your home's electrical system, including its wiring switches. Did you know that? We do cover that. Cover ceiling fans, all right? But homeowner's insurance may cover the loss of homeowner's belongings due to theft or damage for electrical.
Right. And what you want to know is what that proximate cause of loss is, right? So when we talk about rain being something that's covered, it has to be a storm-created opening in the home. So it has to be like a tree branch that caused the rainwater to enter. It has to be hail or wind ripping the shingles or the roof off the home that caused the rain to enter the home. If you just have a bad seal on your window and that causes water penetration into the home, again, the reason the water entered the home is because the system failed due to normal wear and tear, defect, or deterioration. The resulting damage is not covered because the reason it was damaged was because the system failed through normal wear and tear.
Right.
So
yeah.
Again,
and,
it's one of those discussions we can have.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. And you know, in January when the temperatures were 12 degrees, and sometimes, and I had a situation we just talked about, that it was a pipe that was in the attic. Yes, it was at that time. The plumber went out and said it's leaking due to the temperatures being freezing temperatures. Well, the time that he went out there, it was 70 degrees. So that homeowner goes, well, it's 70 degrees. How can it be due, because we denied the claim, because it was due to freezing temperatures, not wear and tear. It cracked. So she said, how can it be? It's 70 degrees. Well, it's a slow leak. You know, just because sometimes it takes that, because it was in the ceiling and it started off a little bit, and then a week and a half later, they finally noticed it because it was a big stain on the ceiling. Yeah. So even though that may happen, the plumbers are really good about saying, this is due to freezing temperatures. And if that's the case, it's going to be done.
And we talk about it, you know, date of discovery and date of loss are two totally different things.
Totally
date of discovery, it was 70 degrees.
Yes.
The date of loss, it was 12 degrees.
Yes.
Right? So
and that's what caused
for homeowners insurance, it's all about what was going on the date of loss.
Yes.
And so, but again, it took a plumbing professional to determine. He went out when it was 70 degrees, but he was able to determine, hey, this happened due to freezing temperatures.
Yeah. And it's a copper pipe, they have to replace everything. So, you know, so here's kind of an idea of what, you know, the service plan, they're going to cover, you're going to cover the washer and the dryer and your water heater. And then over here, it says with fire casualty, and this guy is actually robbing, on a bicycle.
Lightning,
how far do you think he's going to get, you know?
So with this theft, what do you recommend, like, our clients do, like, hide items and have a receipt, or what?
That's a great question.
It is great.
Because there are, as it pertains to theft, there's certain types of personal property that are going to be limited. It's going to be things like, fine arts, antiques, jewelry, firearms, those kind of things are all going to be things that are going to be limited, those special types of personal property. So yes, absolutely. If they have high value items, one, you need to document that you owned it. Most people don't save receipts. I can probably count on two hands in 18 years of doing this how many clients have actually done this and sent it to me. I'm hoping more of them have this, but a video contents inventory of your house is super easy to do. You just walk through with your smartphone, videoing different rooms. If you have high price items, take individual pictures of that, send it to the cloud somewhere off your phone. So if there is a house fire and you leave your phone behind, those things don't only exist on that phone. You're welcome to email it to your insurance professional so that we can keep it on file for you. But it is absolutely something that you can send to an adjuster in the event of a loss, especially a large loss where your mind is just, you're zapped and you're like, I can't remember everything that I own, but they're going to ask you to document what you owned. It's so nice to be able to just take that information and forward it to an adjuster, and they can see, they can validate what you had in there. But anything higher priced, especially firearms, furs, antiques, fine arts, jewelry, those kind of things, we do recommend if it's over like $2,500 in value, that you get an appraisal or provide that receipt, and that way we can schedule those items for that specific amount, and it waives the deductible. We see a lot of times with theft, based on what deductibles are under a homeowner's policy, which is almost always 1% of the dwelling coverage. $500,000 house, your deductible is $5,000. If they come in, take a TV and a laptop, it may not exceed the deductible.
Yeah.
So some of those things you can schedule and reduce what your deductible is or waive the deductible altogether.
Yeah.
But document it for
Right.
sure.
Taking a picture, that's a great idea. I never even thought about that. And $2,500, some of these people that have really the high-end homes, it's not going to near cover that at all. So think about that. That's great. A toilet was leaking. The home warranty company would pay to fix the toilet, but would not pay the repair and water damage that was caused the structure of the home because of the leaking toilet. Luckily, you're probably covered under your home warranty. Why do you need both? A home needs both. Homeowners need both home insurance, obviously, and a home warranty on their home to protect the structure of the home's systems and appliances. If there is damage done to the structure of the house, the owner won't have to pay the high cost to repair it if they have homeowners insurance. The damage done to the home structure or homeowner's belongings was brought out by malfunction of appliances or systems. A home warranty can help cover the cost of repairs and replacement. Again, home warranties don't cover everything, just like homeowners insurance. And it's also a process, just like homeowners insurance. If you ever had to place a claim with home warranties or place a claim with homeowners insurance, it's not a fast process. You place a claim, plumber's not going to come out there in an hour, they're just not. It's made to save money. You have to go through the process to get it done, but in the long run, you will save money. So if someone calls and then they say, well, it's been 2 hours, I haven't heard from anybody, they're not calling me back, it's a process.
But you could look like an all-star with your clients if you make these two recommendations right here, because in the case of the enhanced for her, it can help with the deductible, it can pick up some things that the homeowner's insurance policy might not, but they can work together to reduce what their out-of-pocket expense is, and it makes all of those things worth it for the insured. And you're the one who made that recommendation, and we're walking them through that process and making sure they understand everything. So that client's going to look back at you and go, wow, thank you so much for making those two recommendations, because it saved us thousands of dollars. That hot water heater situation, dishwasher or washing machine fails and floods the home, she's covering the system, we're covering the resulting water damage. It's really kind of a beautiful process, especially when we're reducing their out-of-pocket expense.
Yeah, and it may take a week or a week and a half or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depends on, how fast we can get it. We get our stuff from Lowe's usually, and they, obviously we all know if you try to buy anything from Lowe's right now, it's going to be a process. So it is a process, but it will get fixed. One of the things too is, and I know Collin's really good because I had a house that caught on fire, and I called him, it was a holiday weekend, and he answered the phone. I wasn't home. My neighbor called me and said, your house is on fire.
Not the call you want.
No. And I'm
so the
6
next call
hours
was
away.
To me.
Yes.
My house is on fire.
No, my house is on fire. He goes, okay. But he answered the phone. So, and it's after hours and things like that that you want to get somebody that you can, give your client that information. Because it's when they get home at night at 5:30, 6 o'clock, they're going to realize they have flooding.
That water's been leaking all day. And look, y'all, if it's bad enough, the homeowner's policy should pick up their loss of use of the home. I mean, if they have to bring in, you know, ServPro or ServiceMaster or Nortex or somebody to come in and dry out the home, and they're running these fans, and you can't live there, homeowners insurance is going to pay for the hotel and reimburse them for their travel and meal costs and things like that while their home is not livable.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing for them to have, or make sure that they've got.
Absolutely,
for,
yeah.
so.
And go over it and make sure if you do have that, make sure they know what they have, because I know that I'll get a call from someone maybe 6 months and they've had issues before, and they said, I just realized I had a home warranty.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I had one. So give them my brochure and say, this is what's covered, this is what you have, especially with homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
You have somebody you can call, you have this, you know, if you have an issue, please reach out to them. Not, you know, not to, you know, it may not be covered, but at least call them first.
I was going to say,
But
it's
yes.
worth, encourage your clients to have the discussion with whoever
Yes.
the professional is, whether it's home warranty or homeowner insurance, because they may just assume it's not covered.
Yes.
And a lot of times it can be.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's good to make the phone call. And I don't work for the insurance company, I work for the client. That's an important distinction, because if you call Farmers or State Farm or Allstate and ask them if you're covered for something that you have going on, they are bound by the company to turn in the claim. They cannot advise you and not turn in the claim, whereas I can advise you on what the potential for coverage is without having the requirement to file the claim.
Yeah, as well. Yes, got a question?
Yes, let's say you sold a home 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they thought they had the home warranty at Coahing. They let the year lapse, they didn't renew, and 2 years later, they're calling you wanting to
Get coverage?
get coverage.
You can get one at any time.
You can get one at any time.
You can get one at any time. You can buy one. Realtors get a discount. They do. You get a discount. So, but it's a 30-day grace period. So when if your clients want to renew, they have to renew before their expires. Okay. It can't be like.
If they are expired.
That's okay. You still have a 30-day grace. When let's say that you sold a house and their renewal comes up in a week, they need to renew before that week. If they wait till after it expires, I'm not talking about a day, I'm talking about like a week or 2 weeks, they're going to have a 30-day grace period. Why? It's what happens is usually, and I got a call and it was from a realtor, and he said, I forgot to renew and I have a problem. And I said, well, when was your renewal date? September? I was like, So usually that's what happens. They don't think about it, or think I don't need it, or don't think about it until something's covered. So now there's an issue. So obviously we're not going to cover it. All right? So that's usually why people call, because they need it. That's why it's so important. That's why the 30-day grace period is. It's a 30-day grace. If they want to renew, they can renew it anytime. We don't ask for inspections. Even if they, you know, you have a neighbor that's been in that house for 30 years, I may get a home warranty. We're not going to, there's no inspection. There have to be an inspection, but there's a 30-day grace period. It's just because most of the times in the past, when you've gotten those calls to renew or to buy one, you have an issue. And it's not going to be covered because, you know, that's why you're calling to get one. So
It's like calling me for flood insurance when the hurricane's
Yes.
5 days out.
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's
it's
why
like, I
there's
need it
a
now.
grace period,
That's why there's a
waiting
grace.
period.
It's the same thing. That's
Yeah.
why they do that for obvious reasons. Yeah.
So when our client calls us in a panic, and they don't really know what's happening, and just know, I mean, they know what's happening, but like what part or
Right.
what's out or whatever, who should they call first?
Okay, so it depends. You can ask them, let's say for instance, is it, you know, their water heater leaking? Is it, you know, was it struck by, maybe it wouldn't be struck
Yeah.
by lightning.
Well, no, but we have seen it like with air conditioning systems, like all of a sudden they fail and the client's like,
Struck by
man,
lightning.
like I
Yeah.
thought we were doing good. Home inspection said we were good. I had
Yeah.
the air conditioning people say we're good. And they'll call the HVAC professional out and they're like, oh, did you have a lightning strike anytime recently? Well, yeah, we had a thunderstorm last week. Well, it fried that thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And that
we've
would be
had
on
it-
him, not on us.
Right, and that is, I mean, lightning is a covered peril in a homeowner's policy.
Yeah.
So if the professional can say, hey, this is what caused that system to fail, there's potential for coverage under homeowners insurance.
Right. So what I would ask the question is, what's wrong with it? What happened to it? If they
Right.
say, well, look, you know, struck by lightning and you know, it just, you know, caught on fire or whatever, then that's going to be homeowners insurance. If it's something that, well, there's a leak or something, then yes, I would say call the home warranty. You know, and if they have any doubt, maybe they can call me.
Yeah.
Again, if I don't know for sure, if there's like a gray area like with that sink, then I'm going to say, go ahead and place a claim.
Yeah.
You know, let's see if we can get somebody out there and they'll determine it. And if we can't, then I'll reimburse that 85, and then, you know, either you turn it in there. If it's not something that can be, you know, fixed on their end,
Sure.
then they're on their own.
And
But
really-
at least they try.
You know, I don't care if they're my client or not.
Yeah.
You know, if we're partners and we're all professionals, you can reach out to me and say, hey, would this be homeowners insurance, or is this
Right.
more like home warranty, or is this nobody
Yeah,
at all? And I'll shoot you straight, you know, whether we're the agent on the policy or not. I mean, that's why we are
Right.
resources for all of you.
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
And-
just call either one of us or both.
Yeah, or just have them call us. No, it's okay.
On the plumbers and HVAC and stuff like that, I have two questions.
Okay.
One, does Fidelity use like local people to this area?
Ann, you want to answer that question?
I love them because all of the people they use are excellent.
Thank you.
And even if somebody's not under a home warranty, I recommend some of these people.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And yes, in this area, it's Chris Coahing, and that's his name, Chris Coahing. He owns a company, it's actually Coahing, you know, Cooling. And he owns it. I don't know if he planned that or not, but he is awesome. We do have some great, great people. Now, I will tell you, if you have a house that's in Detroit, Texas, did you know there's a Detroit, Texas? I do now. Didn't know it was. Apparently it was my area too. Did you know there's Detroit, Texas?
No,
Okay.
that was not
So
my
there's 700 people that live in Detroit, Texas. And I apparently, one of my realtors that live in Mount Vernon sold a house. There's like one in every 10 years that's sold in that area. So trying to get somebody, we're going to have to pull them from Mount Vernon, Mount Pleasant, or Paris.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense? Because we don't have anybody, because we have to have, number one, they have to be licensed. And number two, you know, it can't be just anybody, you know, it has to be. But we have super plumbers as well, you know, they're really good, really, really good. And most people that we have here in Tyler, we have in Longview, and they go to Athens, they go to different, now when gas prices were outrageous, it was hard to get them to travel. So what I did was I bought Visa cards and gave them for the gas. I'd say, look, I know prices are high. Thank God they're not like they were, but when they were like, he's here and I want him to drive to Longview. He was like, and I was like, I'll give you a gift card. Please just go do it. And he did. But now it's not the issue right now, but we do have really good. Now, they may come out there and, you know, not everybody loves everybody and not everybody has, you know, the same, but they're good companies. And if they do have a, you know, like maybe a homeowner does have a problem with that person can call in and those claims are filed on that. And if they're filed on so many, it goes to the owner and that owner knows that there was an issue with that. Because, you know, we are licensed, we have to do that and we have to make sure the people we send out are really reputable, good companies and good people. But that's a great question. You had two questions. Oh, Ann, you want to say something?
No, just that you've even helped in grapevine.
Yes, her son's house. Yeah, and yeah, that's absolutely correct. And again, it was a situation that, you know, you give me business, and I'm happy to help you. So call me at any time if it's your son's, if it's your house, if it's, you know, it's the same thing. Yep. You know, we're here to help you guys, and we're happy to help. And don't have your clients to where it's the month in, and they finally call you and they're mad. Because I haven't heard from anybody, I haven't heard from a plumber. They came, you know, 3 days after I turned in the claim, but it's been 3 weeks. What happens is sometimes those plumbers forget to, or the HVAC or whoever it is, forgets to turn in the report to us. We see those reports within 24 hours, but if we don't get it, and I'm not in the service department, so I don't see them at all. I don't have access to them. But if they don't get them, they can't respond and send them out, and they get busy and they forget. So tell them don't wait, because I can usually get involved and get it done within the day.
Amen.
You know, and that's what I want to do. Let's get it done. Don't wait till they get mad.
So in that circumstance, you said it takes a long time and maybe another plumber out because they need it fixed.
Yes,
Reimbursed
yes.
That was mine.
Okay, so let's say for instance that the plumber comes out, he gives a diagnosis, and it's a Tuesday. You know, place a claim on a Monday, it's a Tuesday. But it's the temperatures, and this just happened, the temperatures froze, and now everybody needs pipes. Everybody, all these plumbers now that didn't have any work to do 2 weeks ago are booked. And they say, I can't get out until next Thursday. Well, I can't go without water. Okay, so what we do is give permission, and we get permission from the service department. It's called COS. Basically, they send you an email. You hire your own person. The own person comes out, fills out the diagnosis, sends it in, and they're used to that. Anybody that's licensed has to be licensed, but anybody that's licensed knows how to work with home warranties. They send it in, they send it back, say, yes, this is, yes, we'll reimburse this amount, or no, this isn't covered, but this is. And so they give the homeowner that option or whatever, but then it's usually done within a day or two and it's fixed, all right? Now, don't tell them if they get home and they say, well, I want my water heater fixed tomorrow, I'm just gonna go out and buy a new one and get, my uncle to put it in, and then I'm gonna get it reimbursed. That's not how that works. Okay, because we're going to warrant it. If we do COS, and even though somebody else goes out and do it, if we reimburse, we're going to warrant that work. And also, we're going to ask on that sheet of paper their license number. All right. So make sure if you say call and they say, well, in the state of Texas, you don't have to have a license. Oh, yeah, you do. Okay. Yes, you do. You're supposed to. All right. Yes. So make sure they do that. Yes.
So that he just called a plumber that came out and then did the work. What is the situation? And then he obviously remembered because I get yelled at. So what is the situation in that? Can he do anything to get reimbursed, even for that service charge or for anything?
Okay, so that's a good question because it happens a lot. It depends on what it is. Okay. All right, the quick answer is no. Home warranty companies don't reimburse, only if they go permission with COS, okay? And the reason why is because we're going to warrant that work. We have to approve it, the service department, not me. The service department has to approve saying, yes, this is covered, number one, and this is what we're going to reimburse, number two, okay? And usually it's the full amount, or it might be $1,000, but out of pocket's $200 or something like that. But that information has to be in the system, and we have to approve the person that's doing the work. That's the biggest issue, because again, number one, we can't warrant it. Now, if it's somebody that it was a water heater and it's Christmas and it's a water heater and they have a family of 10 and they need hot water and they had to have it, and it's to replace it, to repair it, it's $400. I could probably get that approved, okay? If you're talking about $4,000 and they just didn't want to go through the system and didn't want to work, no. And that's all home warranty companies, okay?
I can attest to that too, because I had Fidelity when Susan was doing what you're doing now, and my first kiddo was a week from being born, and our hot water heater leaked out into the garage. Thankfully, it was in the garage. But we needed hot water. We're going to be bringing a baby home, and there was no hot water heaters that were eligible for replacement. And so I called Susan, because we can't help if we don't know there's a problem.
Yep.
So I called Susan, and Susan was able to get me approved for a better hot water heater that was available.
Yeah.
So that situation is applicable to homeowners insurance as well. Like a client might go through the process of fixing something just to realize that it would have been covered under homeowners insurance. Their ability to recover under the homeowners policy is going to be predicated on how well they documented what happened. So if they have a plumber's report or an electrician's report or something like that, they have photos, they have the broken parts, whatever it might be, we might be able to go back to the homeowner's carrier and prove what happened and get them reimbursed for what they spent for it.
Yeah, yeah. And it changed too when you're realtors. Remember that. If it's your home and you're, we get business from you, so your better chance would be yes. But I would not recommend it, because I had a realtor in Longview, and they had an air conditioning system, and the other one was old too. And he sends me a lot of business, and sent Susan a lot of business, and he's a big producer. And he went out and bought $15,000 worth of ACs, and I thought maybe we would reimburse. No, we're not going to. It doesn't matter how much you sell, So you got to, now, if he'd have gone through us, we'd have probably paid for one. The other one didn't need it, it was just old, but he might have gotten that and not been out that money. All right?
Question, it's easy to replace, I guess, that Genie garage door opener, but what if one or both springs break?
Okay, so we do cover that. All right, so you look under and it's going to be on the Comprehensive Plus for garage doors. And I would tell you, a garage door, if your car is in the garage and you can't get it up, that's a priority lien. Not priority lien, that's a priority claim, okay? Which means is someone's going to get out there within 24 hours and get that open. You know, and that's for your clients too, because that's priority, because you can't leave and that's covered. So if you look under garage doors under the Comp Plus, and I know these brochures, it was a little better to read them, but they kind of aren't, but permits, anyway, it's on this page. Garage doors covered, hinges, springs, cables, remote transmitters, and keypads, along with the motor and everything else, and that's on page 10. So, but again, it depends on which plan you have. The standard won't cover those things, but it covers the motor. But if you get the Comp Plus, it'll cover that. All right? All right.
It's also considered a falling object. So if that falls and damages a car or something that's underneath that garage door, then yes, the homeowner's policy can cover the damage.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had a realtor too that she couldn't get it. She couldn't get to the thing that you pull down and make it open because the car's in the way, and so then the springs broke, and so we had somebody out there really quick. Again, that's considered a priority claim. Another priority claim: if your water heater is leaking and 40 gallons is coming out of there, we're going to get a plumber in there pretty quick. If we can't, then we're going to let you do COS, which means you get your own person. Okay. So we talked about that. Let's see if there's anything that we missed, Collin. I don't think so.
I mean, we did really good.
I think we did too. Due to storms.
AC struck by lightning. Yeah.
Yep, I think we covered that. Any other questions? You've had great questions. And I know, has it helped you guys? Have you learned anything, kind of the difference and stuff like that? Okay, good. Good. And I guess the most important thing that he and I want you to walk away with is the importance of communication with your clients. About if they do go with us, make sure they have our contact information and make sure they know what they have, because you want to be left out of that loop when it comes to things like this. Just say, hey, call them and talk to them. All right, you want to be left out of the loop for that. Or you can text me, hey, will you call? And you can text Collin. Yep. I have a client, she just closed, he just closed, they just closed. They've got a question about their home warranty or homeowner's insurance. Will you give them a call? Yeah. And we will.
Definitely don't determine coverage for them.
No, don't. Yeah. And a lot of times too, they can look on the back page and it says what we cover under each one, and then these are additional coverages. And I have them in Spanish as well. I can't read them, but I have them. I do. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you. And now it's time for taco soup.